Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you, Chair Cassidy, for having this hearing today. But I got to say, no one wants our child care system to work more than me as a former preschool teacher. And if my colleagues know anything about me, they know that this is one of my top priorities, and we're really working to solve the child care crisis that we do have in America. And it is a crisis. We do not have enough providers. They're not paid a living wage. They're barely keeping their doors open, and parents cannot hardly find, let afford child care today. So we have to solve that, and I'd love to have a hearing about that specific framework, Mr. Chairman. But if we do want to solve the child care crisis, that does mean we're going to have to make some very serious federal investments. And we are going to have to make the most of those investments. We can't afford to have this work delayed or derailed by fraud. So let me be unequivocal here. I will always champion transparency and accountability. I want high-quality programs, not for-profit money grabs. But accountability has to be a tool to bolster child care, not a ruse to distract from solutions or a pretext to target programs that families do rely on. Serious oversight involves prosecuting specific cases based on solid evidence, like the Biden administration did, not issuing a blanket freeze on funding for entire states based on conspiracies or politics like Trump has done. Apparently, if some right-wing YouTube account posts a video about fraud, that means that the Trump administration is going to jump to attention and block child care funding for an entire state. That is wrong. We need to get real for a second. We can't just assume a child care center is committing fraud because they won't let any random person show up, shout with a camera, and come in and demand to see the kids. Do we really want child care centers to let in any weirdo if they yell loud enough? Of course not. That is very dangerous. Still, President Trump is treating conspiracy like gospel today, and blind accusations are not accountability. Witch hunts are not oversight. Instead of more accountability, what we are seeing is more harassment of child care providers as self-appointed vigilantes. They show up with cameras, they bang on the door, they peep through the windows, and demand to see kids. That, to me, is deeply alarming. We do need accountability, absolutely, but that goes for everyone, including the president and everyone who's fanning the flames of conspiracy. Mr. Wilde, let me start with you. You have overseen child care and Head Start programs at both the state and federal level. You understand the oversight tools built into our current law, including audits, monitoring, and the ability to recover misspent funds. Based on your experience, is a statewide funding freeze necessary to evaluate claims of fraud?
Thank you, Senator Murray, and thank you for your commitment and service in Head Start, which I super appreciate. I don't think it makes sense to have a statewide freeze. I think it punishes the vast majority of providers who are absolutely committed to children and doing the right thing every day. I think program integrity is crucial, but it should be done in a way that's focused and targeted and doesn't affect all providers. I'd say when you shut down payments, 3 different groups are hurt. The first is low-income working parents whose centers might be closed and thus they can't go to work. The second is the child care providers themselves. In my experience, child care providers, when something like this happens, they first stop paying themselves, but then...
Absolutely, cut back, and I want to get on because I just have a few seconds. But I do want to hear from each of our witnesses. Have you ever let in an unannounced stranger into one of your child care centers, someone who claims they're an independent journalist or holding an iPhone or asking to see proof of kids? Any one of you, yes or no? Mr. Wilde?
No.
Dr. Polito? None of you.
And we would
Of
call
course not.
Right?
No one would. That is not a serious or legitimate way to uncover fraud. It is a serious way to put our children into harm's way. If someone had to come knocking on my preschool classroom door when I was teaching to try and record my kids, I would have called the police. So we've got to be real, Mr. Chairman. We want to make sure there's no fraud. but we should not draft childcare policy based off a right-wing YouTube so-called investigation, and we shouldn't put our children in jeopardy, and we should not put our states in jeopardy over these wild claims that we're hearing. Thank you.
Senator Collins.
Thank you, Ms.